Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. Today, I'd like to continue on with our discussion, our journey, you and I, through the recent releases made by the Criterion Collection during this year of 2020. Today, I'd like to focus on a particular title that already exists in the Criterion Collection right now, at spine number 383. This is a film from 1947, and the filmmaker's name is Jules Dassin. Now, what we got is a new Blu-ray of this really terrific film, which is called Brute Force. This is a film from 1947, screenplay Richard Brooks, producer Mark Hellinger, director Jules Dassin, and heading off a really splendid cast. We have Hume Cronyn in what is a really interesting turn, and we have Burt Lancaster. Wow, what a film this is, Brute Force. What we have here is, in essence, a prison drama about a number of inmates and the stories that they have which led them there, as well as the stories of their current plight in prison, and in particular their interactions with the guards and the authority, as represented, of course, in the film by Hume Cronyn's character. And then we have one of the central focuses or foci of the film being the character of Joe Collins, played by Burt Lancaster. This is, of course, as I mentioned, a prison film, a human drama. It is also like a buddy film in terms of the camaraderie we have with this great cast of characters. But it is also a film about authority. It is a film about what might be deemed to be a somewhat abusive authority and the horrors that can lead to the extremes of the application of such. I use the word horrors too because I think this film can also be described in many aspects to be almost like or akin to a horror film. There are some very inventive and quite horrific scenes that are suggestive of a really deeply disturbing sense of violence. So there are horror film genre aspects to this. There are, of course, also really deep-rooted senses of film noir and the film noir genre, and the idea of desolation as depicted in cinema, and the idea also of trying to catch a break and trying to win against all odds. And all this, of course, is deeply rooted, and as I say, a story that is fueled by the strength of its characters, headed off, of course, by the great character of Joe Collins, played by Burt Lancaster, and the truly harrowing, almost gut-wrenching drama that ensues, as well as the really exciting action set pieces that also have a real bite and edge to them, and real tough scenes and also quite disturbing scenes as well, give this film a real, as I say, an edge, a ferocious sense of energy, and a kind of direction forward leading to its spectacular conclusion. My goodness, what a prison film this is, and it is well-rounded, it is well-paced, and it is excellent. This is the film Brute Force. Now, this film is appearing here in the Criterion Collection, and as I mentioned before, this is the new Blu-ray released earlier this year. It exists already, of course, in this earlier DVD, which is what I have here from 2007. So what we have essentially, for the most part, we have all of the supplementary materials from this DVD essentially ported over to the new Blu-ray, which is right here. And as you can see also, the packaging is pretty much the same. And if we look at the back of the DVD and then we look back at this Blu-ray, we can see virtually identical looks and packaging design details. I think perhaps the only thing that we should keep in mind is because of the dimension size of the DVD versus the dimension size of the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray, of course, is slightly smaller in dimension size. We might get some instances where, for instance, photos that are used, say, for instance, the back here, or shots that are used, seem a little bit cropped when we get to the Blu-ray. And that's certainly true also for photos that we see used in, say, the booklet. Here's the Blu-ray booklet, and then here is the DVD booklet. And I'll get to this in a second. There's a slight bit of cropping that occurs with some of the photos that we saw in the earlier DVD booklet and as they appear in the new Blu-ray booklet. But for the most part, everything that we saw in the earlier DVD is brought over to the newer Blu-ray. But speaking of the newer Blu-ray, we should point out that while we had I thought, really beautiful digital transfer of the film in 1.33 to 1 aspect ratio here, in the new Blu-ray, it's purported to be based off of a new 4K digital restoration, and the aspect ratio is described as being 1.37 to 1. And I think it looks really splendid. As I say, I like the earlier DVD just fine, but the Blu-ray it really is very sharp and very lovely to look at. And I mentioned, of course, the supplements that were brought over from the earlier DVD. And the first of which is an audio commentary track with Alan Silver and James Orsini. This is wonderful. Now, we've talked about this before, about Criterion and commentary tracks. And so it's really nice to have the commentary track that we saw in the early DVD remain for purposes of the new Blu-ray release. And I admit, too, that the commentary track for this one is excellent. It is excellent. It goes into so much important detail. It goes into detail about Mark Hellinger, the producer, for example, and the kinds of interests and concerns that Hellinger had as a producer and filmmaker, and how this film, Brute Force, is a wonderful example of Mark Hellinger's concerns as well. So there's a certain sense of concern, if you will, or depicting certain aspects of proletarian life. I think that was one of the phrases that was used in the commentary. So really essential stuff. But that's not all they mention. Of course, they mention the great music by Miklos Rocha, or they mention the camera work, William Daniels. Dassin, of course, is strongly mentioned, and we also have aspects of the actors and background design, and also information about blacklisting, because there are certain actors that were affected by this, and so some of these details appear in the commentary as well as many others. And there are many descriptions of the film in terms of the genre, horror film aspects and the like, as well as film noir aspects, and also prison drama aspects. So this is really great, and I love how the Criterion Collection has included this for the new Blu-ray. So this is the audio commentary track. And then we have another supplement that we saw from the earlier DVD. This time it's a one-on-one discussion with Paul Mason. This is from 2006, and this is approximately 15 minutes. Paul Mason is described as being editor of Captured by the Media, Prison Discourse in Popular Culture, Prison Discourse in Popular Culture. And also he's described as being a criminologist at Cardiff University. And the focus of this discussion with him is to talk about the focus of the prison film and the concept of the depictions of prison and prison life, and the punitive and retributive acts and aspects, if you will, of the depictions of the the thing that we call prison and its connections with society, etc., and how that plays a role in depicting this in cinema. So this is a really fascinating discussion because it is sociological. It is also very broad in terms of the sociological discussion points that it makes. It's also deeply rooted in the film itself and how he's taking this as a really prime example of the prison drama genre. And many of his points having to do with the film also link back to that sociological discussion that he was having. And so I find this to be a utterly fascinating conversation. So well done, Criterion, for bringing it over from the earlier DVD. And then we have a new supplement. So we have a new supplement that wasn't on the earlier DVD, and this is from 2017. This is the Criterion Channel's Observation on Film Art number 12. This is called The Actor's Toolkit, and this is hosted by David Bordwell. 13 minutes, and David Bordwell's discussion is about the acting and certain actors' choices that are made and framing of the camera and filmmakers' choices that are made here. So, for instance, David Bordwell is talking about eye movement and also the positioning of people in the frame, if they're facing each other, if they're facing away from each other. He's also talking about very minute things such as the significance of blinking and non-blinking. And especially in the context of the performance by Burt Lancaster, which is a spectacular one. If you just look at the rugged features of his face, and also how Burt Lancaster uses both movement and stillness in his performance, I think these aspects come through so strikingly well in this film. And David Bordwell's comments, I think, really shine a light very nicely on these excellent choices of acting and the like. And so here we have a new supplement, but when I say new, this is of course new in the sense that it wasn't included in the earlier DVD, but this is something that was from the Criterion Channel, the Criterion streaming service. But it's really great to have here for this new Blu-ray. And then we have the trailer, and then we have a stills gallery for the Blu-ray, which is approximately 3 or 4 minutes. Now let's be very clear here. There was also a stills gallery on the earlier DVD, but the earlier DVD stills gallery was one of these ones where you press the forward and backwards button to navigate through the stills at your own pace. Here we have an edited one that is an automatic playthrough that is, as I say, a sort of montage, if you will, of the stills. And so you're getting a slightly different experience when you're dealing with the DVD presentation of the supplement versus the Blu-ray presentation of the supplement. But in any event, in essence, you're getting what could be described as being, in spirit anyway, a supplement that is that we saw in a certain version anyway on the DVD, which is the stills gallery. And then we get the booklet here, which is right here. And as I say, here for comparison's sake is the earlier DVD booklet. So here's the Blu-ray, here's the earlier DVD. So as you can see, even in terms of the booklet, we have certain similarities of presentation, though as I indicated to you before, if you look at the top, there's a little bit of cropping. If you notice, the DVD has an extra line at the top, whereas the Blu-ray booklet does not. So, and the bottom too, I think there's a little bit of cropping going on, but that's okay for the most part. And then we have an interesting thing that for the most part, the inside contents are the same. So we have we have 3 writings. First is by Michael Atkinson, and next is by Pete Martin, and then Mark Hellinger and Joseph Breen, an exchange. And this is a really great selection of writings that is packed in this robust booklet, approximately, 36 pages here, plus the front cover and the back cover. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I love this because, as I say, you can pack in a lot of writing in the staple booklets, and this is what Criterion has done, and I'm so glad they decided to go with the booklet for the Blu-ray in order to preserve the contents that we saw in the earlier DVD, which are excellent, by the way. These writings are really fantastic. They talk about the film, they talk about Jules Dassin, the incredible and a very important role that Jules Dassin played, and also Mark Hellinger and many other aspects of this film. So I strongly recommend. These are really excellent reads. I champion the Criterion essays and the writings, and this is a great example of that. And as I mentioned before, there are stills, there are photos that are used that are really splendid. So for example here, just note that there is a slight bit of cropping that is going on. I think it's very innocent, and I think for the most part it shouldn't be too much, it shouldn't affect the situation too much, I hope. But just note that there is a little bit of cropping going on. So for example, let's look at, for example, here. Here we go. So for example, we have this photo on the DVD, and then we have a similar photo, or the same photo, appearing in the Blu-ray booklet. But sorry about this. If you can tell, there is a little bit of cropping going on. If you can tell, it's hard to say, sorry for the poor presentation here, but the top area is a little bit cropped off for the Blu-ray version of the photo. So in that sense, you are, again, it's very minor. I think I don't think it's going to diminish your experience of the booklet, so don't worry about that. I should point out that the DVD has a page here that has a chapter title list. If you recall, sometimes even earlier DVD releases had this chapter list with the chapter titles. The new Blu-ray doesn't have this, but instead what it does is it gives us another photo. And so this would have been the page where we would have had the chapter list on the DVD booklet, but here we have another photo. And this is interesting too, because I don't think we get this photo, that particular photo, in the DVD booklet. And so I'm just doing a big quick scroll, browse through the booklet. No, I didn't find that photo in the DVD booklet. So in an interesting way, in terms of that particular photo, you are getting something extra that you didn't get on the earlier DVD, at least the booklet that I have. So there is that. So, but the booklet itself is robust. It contains great essays. Highly recommend that you check those out if you can. So, my dear friends, this is the really, in many ways, epic film, the Jules Dassin film, which is Brute Force. A remarkable performance by Hume Cronyn, a remarkable performance by Burt Lancaster and the rest of the cast, which comes together in this really volatile mix of machismo and drama and tragedy, and also triumph, and also the sense of will and the strength of will displayed on screen, and so much more. This is ferocious, this is vicious, this is almost hard-boiled, white-knuckled, very exciting, and heart-pounding stuff. This is Jules Dassin's film, Brute Force. Okay, my dear friends, that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Thank you once again so much for your precious time, as always, my friends, and cheers.